Greetings, friends. My name is Pyotr Tolstoy, and now we will dive in the top news of this day. Russian troops systematically attack residential buildings in Ukrainian cities with missiles, drones, and artillery. At night, Russia hit Kharkiv. 3 hits were recorded on the territory of the sports complex. A 2-story building was partially damaged. 1 man was injured. Another UAV hit the 3-story building of an educational institution. 3 was a partial destruction of the 2nd and 3rd floors. There was also a fire on the area of about 200 square meters. Today, the Russians shelled the hospital in the center of Kherson. As a result, a young doctor who worked in the office for the first day was killed. A nurse was also injured. Doctors are fighting for her life. Also, Dnipro and Zaporizhia have been affected in recent days. The Russian army is deliberately shelling cities in order to kill as many civilians as possible and cause maximum material damage. Yesterday, as a result of a Russian 2-missile attack in one place on Kryvyi Rih, 6 people were killed and 75 were injured. The State Emergency Service reported.
According to preliminary data from our military, these 2 missiles were fired at Kryvyi Rih from the territory of the temporary occupied Crimea, from the area of Jankoy. And this proves again and again that for safety of our cities, for the protection of the normal life of Ukrainians and our children, our military must have enough long-range weapons, enough means to defeat terrorists. The world's sanctioned pressure against Russia deserves a significant increase.
Purposeful destruction of Ukrainian cities is a recognized war crime of the Russian leadership. The world must recognize that Russia is committing genocide against Ukrainians, and Russian criminals must be brought to justice. It is necessary to strengthen the sanctions for terror, to block the delivery channels for the Russian Federation of critical components for the production of their missiles, semiconductors, microcircuits, and chips. To remove the Russian terrorist threat, Ukraine also needs modern air defense and long-range missiles. The Commissioner of the Russian Federation for Children's Rights, Lvova-Belova, published a report which talks about the removal of 700,000 children from the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. Russian aggression destroyed the childhood of 1 million of young Ukrainians. A huge number of children were killed, maimed, lost their relatives, became refugees. Since 2014, the occupiers have been systematically taking Ukrainian children to Russian Federation, trying to solve their demographic problems at their expense. Removal of Ukrainian children is deportation, kidnapping, and a war crime. For this, Putin and Lvova-Belova have been declared wanted by the International Criminal Court in The Hague. Abducted children who lost their parents or were forcibly separated from them end up in special institutions or are placed in Russian foster families under a simplified procedure. The Russian Federation falsifies personal data and hides the location of illegally deported children.
I appealed to Virginia Gamba, the Special Representative of the Secretary General of the United Nations for Children and Armed Conflict, with a request to receive from the Russian side a list of deported Ukrainian children and transfer them to Ukraine. We will work until we return every child home, and for Ukrainian children, home is Ukraine. Dmytro Lubinets, the Ukrainian Parliamentary Commissioner for Human Rights, on Telegram.
In Russia, Ukrainian children are often deprived of basic rights, subjected to violence and moral abuse. Illegal disposal of their fate can be considered human trafficking. The Russians are trying to change the national identity of Ukrainian children to raise them to be Russians and enemies of Ukraine. Future cannon fodder. Such actions are another manifestation of genocide against the entire Ukrainian people. The geopolitical dispute in a recent special on Russian television took an unexpected turn. The question of what to do with Turkey and its neighbors was discussed. "We will not fight with Turkey, we have been somehow agreeing with them, and Bulgaria and Romania are just NATO bases," Vice Speaker of the State Duma of Russia, Pyotr Tolstoy, exclaimed passionately, and added, "We just destroy them, but first we need to finish in Ukraine." That is, what do we see? One important Russian politician openly admitted that Ukraine is not the last target of his country's military aggression, and that the war could spread to the Balkans. Pyotr Tolstoy's political buffoonery, albeit designed primarily for an internal audience, reflects the general desire of the Kremlin to use every opportunity to unbalance the political structures of the Balkan region. Thus, Bosnia and Herzegovina was on the verge of collapse due to the actions of the leader of the Bosnian Serbs, Milorad Dodik. The analytical results Intelnews.com noted at the end of June. There are suspicions that Dodik stepped up his activities with the support of Russian President Vladimir Putin, of whom he is a staunch supporter. Lately, he has met twice with Putin despite the fact that these visits were condemned by Bosnia's Western partners. There are also reports that Russian instructors are training Respublika Srpska special forces to conduct combat operations in populated areas. Paramilitary groups of Serbian nationalists are under the control of Milorad Dodik and financed by the Russian special services. How real the immediate threats to the Balkans may be can be seen from the following report. This week, the newly formed NATO-Ukraine Council, while condemning Russia's decision to withdraw from the Green Deal, noted that Russia's new warning zone in the Black Sea, within the exclusive economic zone, Bulgaria, creates new risks for the escalation of the situation. Accordingly, NATO and its allies are stepping up surveillance and reconnaissance in the Black Sea region, including through maritime patrol aircraft and drones. After all, destabilization, terrorism, and chaos are the Kremlin's favorite technologies. For now, that concludes our video. Thank you for watching. Stay updated. Subscribe to our UATV English channel for more news from Ukraine. Your support is it really matters. Goodbye.